and welcome along to another episode of Robin and Jane in the Stalls. This week we're talking psychological thrillers. We all love a good psychological thriller, and there's one that just happens to be on at the Lyric Theatre here in Belfast. It's running right through until the 4th of May. It's called Our New Girl, and it's from the writer of the TV series The Dry, which we all loved, starring Roisin Gallagher and Ciarán Hinds. But is this play as good as the Dry TV series? Let's start with you, Jane Hardy. What do you think?
No, not quite. Although I think I liked it more than you did, actually. The first half, it starts with a very familiar motif, and that's the perfect, only not very nice in the end, nanny, who I thought was actually well played by Nancy Nee Enler. She arrives unannounced, and that immediately is sinister because the husband who's abroad has employed her, but of course he hasn't let his wife know. And we realised from the beginning there are communication problems and indeed other problems in this marriage. She infiltrates subtly, only not so subtly, and becomes very friendly with the son Daniel, who may or may not be on the spectrum, incidentally. And then suddenly she's the one that the husband takes to school when there are issues with the boy staring at a Chinese girl who had a birthmark, and so on and so forth. And this actually is a very familiar motif from, dare I say it, Channel 5, amongst other places.
It's the first thing that I thought as well, and like we've seen a million times before, whenever an Irish nanny shows up somewhere, you know there's going to be trouble. Don't you?
There's always going to be trouble. And indeed, there is trouble. This was made much more sinister by the fact that it was, well, not bookended by violence. You felt it would be towards the end. We'll come on to that. But it started with the little boy, the son, who's about 8, cutting himself or being about to cut himself. And that was very sinister. Now, this actually the sign of a good play, and I don't think this is entirely good, certainly not the ending, but it led to a lot of discussion afterwards. And in the discussion I had with various actors and members of various important families, they were saying, actually, or we were saying, did he do that to draw attention from his father, who is a plastic surgeon and goes abroad to work for free on victims of warfare and so on? So maybe that was it. And there are lots of secrets, which I quite liked in this drama. There's a secret, well, I don't like tarantulas, but there's a secret pet. The boy has a tarantula. And interestingly, the nanny divulges this secret because the wife hasn't told the husband, knowing he'd disapprove. She actually tells the husband. Now, why does she do that? Well, she does that to drop the wife in it so that she will be closer to the husband. There's also a very interesting passage, and I'm telling really the whole plot here, aren't I? In that the nanny has a scar that she would like to be healed by the husband. And in fact, it turns out she knew he was a surgeon of note in what area. So did she manipulate it all somehow? I mean, conspiracy theories could abound here.
Could we be in trouble this week? Is that spoiler alert, Jane Hardy, out there?
I'm sorry, yes, I am. I am that spoiler alert queen.
You mentioned the kid there, the son, Daniel. On the night that I went to see the show was Milo Payne who played Daniel. And I have to say, for a child actor, he was absolutely brilliant. And he reminded me a lot of like the Damien character from The Omen.
Oh, absolutely. No, he was brilliant. And when he hides and sees something he shouldn't see, I won't say what it is, he was utterly plausible and brilliant. And one wondered if the child actor actually had counselling afterwards, because it contains a lot of fairly adult themes. It has.
Well, that's the thing. I was thinking back to this time last year as well when The Pillow Man was on, and of course that was a very disturbing show as well that also featured kids who could have been traumatised by just being in the show as well. And again, we're seeing that with the Daniel character in Our New Girl.
We are. And the audience was very mildly traumatised by the fact that every now and again we saw this black screen that would suddenly descend across the whole of the stage with a sort of square line along it. And what was that about? Well, it was a disturbing device, really. And I think it allowed them to move a few things about on the stage as well, actually.
It did, but the audience were blinded by the lighting.
We were blinded by the lighting, and it slowed the narrative, but it also made you question the narrative because you jump forward, things juddered, and things did judder in this play. The end definitely was a judder. It wasn't a success because I had hoped for something a la Channel 5, really dramatic, probably violent, and certainly the wife, who it has to be said is heavily pregnant throughout with her second child. And there's a touching scene at the end when the son is allowed to and wants to touch her tummy. And there's a reconciliation between them. But then other members of the family have disappeared at this stage. And she seemed rather over interested in the Sabatier knives, I thought. I don't know how much Rian Jeffrey, the director, whom I thought directed well, had intended this. I think so. I think she was playing with us a bit because look, she was holding the knives. And when there was the denouement, the showdown between Mummy and Nanny, the knives were also deployed somewhat there, but not actually.
Talking about the knives, the whole thing is set in a kitchen, obviously, as well. And I must mention the set design by Marie Kearns as well, because I just thought that was a lovely kitchen. I wouldn't mind that kitchen in my home.
No, I certainly wouldn't mind that enormous kitchen in my home either. And it had this rather beautiful skylight at the back, and some very good kit, including, as I've already mentioned quite a few times, the knives.
And the rain, the real life rain on the windows as well.
Very believable, very believable. Yes, it was a beautiful set, but the problem is whenever you review something and you start talking about the set, you know that possibly the production wasn't up to scratch. But I think it was more up to scratch for me than for you, actually.
It was. I'm going to come back to the ending because, number one, it wasn't the ending that I was hoping for. It wasn't the ending that I was expecting either. But the one thing that it did leave me with was you were wondering, you really wanted to know what was going to happen to this family next. And the other thing that I wanted to know was, who's living next door? I want to meet the neighbours.
Who were partying all the time. Yes, they were. There was a party noise that kept interrupting the narrative again, interruptions. No, the ending wasn't the ending I'd anticipated, or in a way I'd hoped for, something really, really violent, possibly. And I thought there was no way that this dysfunctional, tiny family, a mother and a baby to come and this son, could possibly survive. And again, there was a lack of clarity there. It wasn't entirely believable.
Yeah. But
But having said that, I'm going to say that Lisa Dwyer-Hogg I thought was brilliant as the mother, and her meltdown was entirely believable.
exactly, and the way she had to carry on getting more believably pregnant as the show went on as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that was believable.
So, like us, we've watched the Channel 5 dramas over the past few months and stuff, all those thrillers that have been on every week. And I suppose people who enjoyed those may enjoy this show.
I think they will. I think they definitely will enjoy this show. They maybe feel slightly let down by the ending, as indeed we were. But I think they would enjoy the disturbing aspects of it. And there is an aspect about the son that's a bit like we need to talk about Kevin. And also the tarantula, of course.
Well, not just the son as well, but you're questioning the parenting.
We are questioning the parenting, and it's about power and abuse of power, really. And actually, another comment that came out in the little seminar I was involved with after the show was that it was interesting. The son was encouraged to call his parents by their Christian names, and that led to lack of boundaries. And there weren't boundaries for him. And there was a lot about truth and lies as well, because he was accused of lying about what he'd seen that went on between his father and the nanny, and of course it was true, but he wasn't believed. And yet, when he was also accused of lying when he said he hadn't been staring at the little Chinese girl at school. So there was actually a lot going on psychologically.
Okay, well, it's that time now to make up our minds on our final decisions on the show. As you know by now, we don't use the little star system. We use something connected to the show. And because the bottles of Sicilian olive oil play a big part in the show, I thought this week we'll vote with the olive oil bottles.
Yes, why not?
So this week I'm going to go first, and as I've said, if you're a fan of psychological thrillers, if you like the stuff that's being pumped out on Channel 5 the minute, if you enjoy the TV series The Dry, which of course was also written by Nancy Harris, then why not get along and give this show a chance? But for me, I'm going to give it 2.5 little bottles of olive oil.
And I'm going to give it 3.5 little bottles of olive oil.
So there we go. So of course, if you've been to see Our New Girl, we'd love to know your thoughts on it as well. Feel free to leave your comments on our social media or of course on our YouTube channel as well. As always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all your comments as well. Thank you for the 1,000 views last week on Facebook alone, by the way. And we'll see you back in the stalls sometime very soon. And Our New Girl runs at the Lyric Theatre here in Belfast until the 4th of May. I think we got it all in there, Jane, didn't we?
Yes.
We did, didn't we? Yeah. Just your spoilers there.
I know, shocker. Absolute shocker. Queen of the spoiler alert.